Hi, I'm John McGuire, founder and director of the Kinesiology Institute. Thank you for tuning into this video. And be sure to subscribe to our channel and click the bell to be notified when we post new content. And go to kinesiologyinstitute.com to learn more about applied kinesiology. Hi, I'm John McGuire, and I'm so thrilled that you're joining me for the Psychological Kinesiology Certification Program. This is one of my favorite things to teach and many of my students' favorite things to learn because it has such a transformational aspect to your own life as you're going through this course and the people that you work with. I had one guy who was actually a former janitor. Before that, he was an LA gang member. And he took my course, and after he completed it, he started working with people, and he came up to me and he says, "You know, John," he says, "I'm getting better results in 2 sessions doing this work than my clients have said they've gotten in 5 years of working with a psychologist." Because we get down to the core of where the problems really exist in the energetic field. And that's where we can clear that energetic source and wiring, recode and reprogram our consciousness to bring us to a higher level of being and get into our higher mind out of our reactive mind. So you're going to learn so many powerful skills in this course and working on your own life as well as those you love and care about. So here's what we're going to cover in the course tonight. First, we're going to get into the key principles of psychological kinesiology. We're going to check into the things that influence your thoughts and emotions, things that also influence your psychological state. We're going to cover the principles of psychology. We're going to show you what you can do with psychological kinesiology that you can't do in other forms of psychology. So you'll have a definite advantage of things you can access, and we'll talk about that. We're also going to cover the 2 keys to emotional well-being. When you all boil it down to keep it really simple, which is what we're going to do for you throughout this course, there's 2 main factors we'll cover tonight that make all the difference. You're also going to learn how to use psychological kinesiology to clear past trauma and create success, and how you're going to be able to do that in this program. And then we're going to cover an emotional stress release technique that, if you did the fundamentals, is basically the same, but we're going to go a little deeper with it, and it's the foundation of all our psychological kinesiology work, is the distinctions in that technique. Here's a quote for the week by Dr. Sheldon Deal, my mentor. He says that the thoughts you think are the most important factor to your health. We're not just talking emotional health. Our physical bodies, the thoughts you think, have so powerful effect on your health. Whether you're healthy or in a state of disease, thoughts have more power than any other. Here are some principles of psychological kinesiology. The first one is that our thoughts and emotions are vibrational frequencies known as a thought field. That when you have a thought, it's a vibration that actually creates an energy field that affects your whole body and actually can affect those around you. So we're going to see there's high-level thoughts like love, compassion, that, caring for somebody, that is a very high vibration. And when people come into your field, like those that you work about and you have a field of love and compassion, they often just get healed being in your presence. However, if you might be a little more open and somebody comes into your field and they're very judgmental and negative, do you ever notice how you just don't feel so good? Well, that thought field is true energy. And so everything's energy, including our thoughts and emotions. So this is a very great principle that we are going to keep coming back to throughout this course, that we're dealing with energy, and emotions and thoughts are energy. Now, these emotions and thoughts can either cause energy to flow, like love and compassion, or block chi to create meridian imbalances, such as in the case of being resentful, judgmental, and having negativity in your mind. So blocked chi can lead to physical and emotional disorders and disease. As we mentioned earlier, It was Einstein that said, "The field is the sole governing agent of matter." So in other words, our thought field governs our physical body. Every acupuncture meridian has emotions associated with it, which are vibrational frequencies. And we'll be learning those in the course here of how fire has emotions associated with it, and then earth has its. We've got water and metal and wood. They all have different emotional frequencies, and we'll be able to tap into those frequencies through muscle testing. Here's another principle. When you resist your emotional experience, you block energy or chi that can then affect that meridian. Give an example of this. The emotion grief is related to the lung meridian as well as large intestines. So somebody's stuck in grief and they're like resisting it, like, "God, I hate feeling this way, I don't want to feel this way." It actually blocks the energy. And so sometimes you'll have an over energy in a meridian, which is a lot of what happens, and then it could develop into a disease in that organ because it's stuck energy. It's getting more and more and more. So we are able to test to find out what specific emotions are where. Uplifting emotions actually enhance the flow of chi and allow the chi to flow. So that's why it's so key to focus on feel-good thoughts and emotions. However, we don't want to block the emotions, as we mentioned earlier, that you're feeling. So what we do is we have so many techniques that allow you to experience the emotion and allow it to flow, that energy to flow by, I call it relax into the feeling. Just allow the feeling to be there. But we're going to show you how you can detach from the feeling rather than identify with it and just allow it to be in flow. That's a key word, allow it to be and let it go. Now, emotions can provide messages from our innate intelligence that are good to listen to, especially when they're from our gut. See, the gut actually has more of a neurotransmitter named serotonin than your brain. And so you never get that feeling like, "I got a gut feeling"? Listen to that, because it's often your inner emotional guidance system. So there is a place for listening to your emotions and saying, what's the message in this emotion? And I often find I'm getting a key like, oh, I need to pull back from this situation and maybe reevaluate it when there's some anxiety or some trepidation that I'm feeling. So we're totally not saying, just forget about your emotions, or let's say what we might consider upsetting or negative emotions. They can be a message from your guidance system. So you want to listen to those. What you focus on intently with strong emotion creates an energetic field like a magnet. So in the course, we're going to see things that you want to create and attract to yourself by focusing on it and bringing about more energy flow to that with a positive emotion that you really get in touch with and vibrate. It's like you create an attractor field. That's what our great Dr. David Hawkins, who wrote Power versus Force, by the way, was a student of our Professor Sheldon Deal. It was his PhD project that Sheldon helped him to create. And he says, I think I'll put a book out about this. And he took his dissertation and created the book Power versus Force, which I highly recommend you read. And we're going to be getting into David Hawkins' work in this course. So we can create an attractor field that helps us to manifest what we want in our life and evolve our state of consciousness to higher and higher levels. I'm sure you've heard of Napoleon Hill, the great man who studied all the successful people in the last century and then wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. And he said, whatever you can conceive and believe, you can achieve. Here are things that influence your thoughts and emotion. One is sensory input. That can be what you see, like color and images. It can also be what you hear in terms of sound, both people's voices, as well as music. There can be an effect from kinesthetic, the feeling of touch and sensation. Smell, the fragrances and aromas that we are exposed to. And then, of course, tastes. Certain tastes can bring about very pleasurable emotions and thoughts, as the whole chocolate industry is based on. Beliefs are another powerful thing that affect our thoughts and emotions. You may be familiar with the book, The Biology of Belief, by Dr. Bruce Lipton. Excellent book, and we're going to get into that work in this course as well. Basically, the meaning you attach to things based on your experience is a major factor in our emotions and thoughts. So we have something happen, and then we tag it meaning a certain thing and believing that this is what that means. Somebody says something to you, and then you have a belief, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, whatever that is. And that whole belief that we have creates a very strong effect on our thoughts and emotions. Familiar beliefs, like from your parents and family. There's a great book called The Bill Porter Story. And this guy had cerebral palsy, and there's a movie called Door to Door, which is the basic story of his life. I believe William Macy even got an Academy Award for acting as the cerebral palsy man, Bill Porter. Well, Bill Porter was told by his mother, you can do anything. You will be a total success at whatever you do. And she just kept drilling him this, convincing him this. And so he went to get this job as a door-to-door salesman. They laughed at him like, sure, you're cerebral palsy. You can hardly talk. You can hardly walk. You're going to go door-to-door? Well, the movie is so great because it shows how he just persisted and persisted and persisted. He became the top salesperson in the company, and his first assignment they gave him was the worst route that nobody else wanted. They just said, well, we'll get rid of this guy, we'll give him that route. But he just kept believing in himself through what his mother kept giving him as positive messages. Now, some of us aren't so fortunate. The messages we got from our parents, and I know this personally, is, you know, you're going to fail, you're not going to be able to accomplish this, you're not worthy. Whatever those messages were, we're going to get underneath those and shift those beliefs by getting to the core roots in our subconscious in this course. Now, another one is cultural beliefs, what you've been taught by your society, and certain messages that came to us like, ooh, it's not good to stick your head up too far, be too successful, you got to be, you know, just like the other people. In fact, in Australia, they have an expression called cutting down the tall poppy. So it says, don't rise above other people, stay just under that glass ceiling. So we get those messages sometime. Or money is the root of all evil. So those are factors that we're going to check into and clear out. Another one is spiritual beliefs, where you find your strength. This is so key, and that's in tough times, that's what you want to rely on. And we're going to explore our spiritual beliefs and how we can use those to rise us up when we're in a down state of despair. Another key factor that affects your thoughts and emotions is your biochemistry, such as your blood sugar. It's been discovered that virtually everyone who has depression, at least when they are depressed, has low blood sugar. And if you can shift the blood sugar, that alone can shift you out of depression. There was a study done that found over half the people in mental institutions, this was many, many years ago when a lot of people were in mental institutions, they said if they just got their blood sugar balanced alone, half of them could go home. So we're going to explore that. Also, hormones. We know what a powerful effect our hormones have on our state of mind and our emotions and thoughts. We'll look into that. We're also going to see neurotransmitters, which is really the key to the whole psychiatric approach of Western medicine, is they say, oh, you're depressed? You have a Prozac deficiency. That's their thinking. It's all about the neurotransmitters. That's the serotonin levels being low. That would be what they would say. And there's other drugs for dopamine, raising your dopamine up. So we're going to learn a lot about that in this course and how you can do it naturally. Things you're going to learn that you can balance your biochemistry, plus the effect of vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. There's a book called The Mood Cure by a psychologist named Julia Ross, and we're going to get into that information in the course as well. And she, as a psychologist, found out, oh, if I can help people with their nutritional deficiencies, like zinc is key for the brain, and certain B vitamins can clear schizophrenia. She said, I can help people more with their nutrition than I can doing psychological counseling. So, key factor for our emotions and thoughts. Here's another key factor, our energy systems. Acupuncture meridian system, the chakras, the auric fields, and spiritual energies. Now, we focus this a lot in our energy kinesiology certification program. And just a note, in our structural kinesiology certification program, we're always balancing meridians as well. And people often notice, just from getting their meridians balanced, not doing any psychological work specifically, they feel tremendously better. Can lift them out of a funk and really help them think clear as well as just feel their best. Here's another key thing that affects our thoughts and emotions is our physiology. Our posture and body language. Goodhart noticed this, that he found if people were slumping, because that's what applied kinesiology, and Goodhart, by the way, was the founder of it in 1964. I had the great fortune of studying with him. And he noticed if people were slumped over and their posture was bad, so was their emotional state. And by balancing the muscles and helping their posture to get into a more erect and balanced state, they would feel better. Another factor is exercise and movement. I was listening to a news report in San Francisco where they were talking about a new study that had found a treatment more effective than pharmaceuticals for depression. And they said it was called brisk walking. How about that for a concept? So when you walk briskly, you are getting more endorphins flowing through the brain, and those are the feel-good hormones and neurotransmitters that alone is one of the most effective things to do whenever you're down and out. So the key to overcoming negative emotions is to be in motion. Interesting phenomena here that when you move, like if you're ever in a funk, go out for a brisk walk. And I found that for myself, especially if you can be by the ocean or by waterfalls or the park or in the woods, go for a walk in the woods, and that alone will lift your spirits. So a key is that you're getting more blood flow to your brain, more oxygen. When you don't have enough oxygen in your brain, you're under stress from that alone. So that's where exercise, movement, and your physiology of being in an uplifted state makes the difference. And we'll get more into that in this course. Environment has a strong effect on your thoughts and emotions. The energy field of those around you, as well as being in an environment of negative ions. I mentioned being around the ocean, the woods, waterfalls. Negative ions just make you feel good. That's why we go to the beach or we go to the woods when we want to take a vacation. We generally don't say, let's go to the inner city where there's all concrete and asphalt, because those emits positive ions. Now, EMFs, that's the electromagnetic frequencies, that can stress you. That's from like computers, from cell phones, from high tension power wires. In fact, I used to live across the street from these high tension power wires that were right in the backyard of my neighbors. And I remember them yelling and screaming at each other all the time. And I was wondering, I wonder how much the EMFs that they're exposed to is creating this tension. So something to be aware of. If you can live out in the wilderness or be away from high tension wires and just turn off all your power at night in your house, you'll actually sleep better and feel better. Now the thought field of people around you, and this is so key. I used to be around a lot of negative people. In fact, I grew up around a very negative father. He was doing the best he could with the resources he had because he had a really stressful, tough life growing up. However, it was just really tough being in his field. When he came home from work, I went upstairs, and he fortunately worked most of the day into the night, and I would just be away from him because in his presence, I just felt tremendous stress and tension and negative emotions. So you have the opposite. Do you ever have somebody that you just love and adore and they come in the door and right away you just feel uplifted? Or the phone rings and it's your dear friend. Your mood shifts immediately. So you have the influence of other people's thought fields such that you want to be around empowering uplifting people all you can. Here's another factor, the amount of sunlight you get, as well as full spectrum light that you're exposed to. There's a condition called seasonal affect disorder you might be aware of, which means in northern climes, at least in the northern hemisphere, high up around, say, Alaska, Norway, Scandinavia, way up in Canada, you get less light in the winter, and many times people are depressed by that. In fact, it's about 10 times more people have seasonal affect disorder in Alaska than they do in Florida because of lack of light. So that is a major factor. So whenever you are in environments where you're going through winter and you don't have much light, you want to be surrounded with bright full spectrum lights all you can. And that can often make a profound difference in people's emotional state. Language is a key factor to thoughts and emotions. And later in the course, we're going to dive right into that in what we call transformational vocabulary, because the words you choose describe your experience, such as if you say, oh God, I've got this problem, as opposed to, wow, I've got this challenge. Just the problem to challenge can make a huge difference in your thoughts and your emotions. The meaning you give to what happens to you, the language you call that is the meaning you give it to. And so that's going to be a key factor we're going to look at. The story you make about your life is a major contributor to either uplifting emotions, where you rose above the challenge and you created a masterpiece out of a mess, as opposed to something happened and you say, okay, my life's no longer worth living, and I make this story about I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. So those stories are going to be key, and we're going to get into those stories and create empowering ones in this course. Affirmations that you put after the words I am, like I am successful, I am beautiful, I am worthy, are so key to your experience. But so much of the time we've added negative words after that, or things like I am angry, becoming that emotion, or I am frustrated. So be careful. Whatever you put after the word I am becomes your identity. In another class, we're going to dive into the 6 human psychological needs. These being certainty and security, also variety and excitement, love and connection, and significance, where you feel worthwhile. Another one is growth, and the last one being contribution. So we're going to see that when you're meeting those needs, you have creative thoughts, you have fulfilling emotions, and when those needs are not created, you have fear, anxiety, anger, frustration. So that's going to be a key formula we're going to train you in how to get those psychological needs met. I mentioned David Hawkins earlier and his states of consciousness. Well, these are key factors we're going to dive into, where you can see what level of consciousness you are vibrating at regards to any context in your life, any relationship, even work. We've had people that tested, if I go in this career route, where's my consciousness level? Where would I be vibrating? And where would I resonate if I go this route? Or even within relationships. So people love this David Hawkins work, and we're going to get you clear on that. But just to be aware that the state of consciousness that you reside in, especially if it's below 200, as you see here on the chart, that then brings negative thoughts, and upsetting emotions. And when you rise above 200, you get to where things just don't bother you. It's a great place to live and hang out. And not only are you going to feel better, but you're going to be happier and healthier. So that's a key factor for our whole state of consciousness being up-leveled with our approaches to bring us to those levels of joy, peace, love, and ultimately enlightenment. Now for some principles of psychology. Number 1 is the primary wiring of your nervous system is to help you survive and avoid pain and pursue pleasure. So our nervous system says, I want to move away from pain, which is often We've had painful experiences in the past where we develop neuroassociations that then create these subconscious triggers that say, oh, I'm not going to go there. Like fear of speaking. You might have been as a kid and stand in front of a group and got humiliated in front of the class. So you then have, this is danger, this is pain, and anytime you stand in front of a group of people, your neural circuits say danger, danger, and we get a fight or flight response. So that is what is commonly our rewiring we're going to do, is find when those experiences occurred and then do things that clear them from our consciousness so there's no longer that neuroassociation in our brain. Now we want to move towards pleasurable experiences, and you can actually recode and reframe things so now you enjoy those things. Such as, I was the shyest kid in high school, if you can believe that. I mean, out of 450 kids, I was the quietest kid, and I would not want to stand in front of people. Well, I had a great fortune of being a rock and roller, and if I was standing in front of 500 people with a 100 decibel amp behind me, I could belt out a song. I used to sing ZZ Top, you know, David Bowie, and I was able to sing. And I got an experience of having great pleasure with the people I was singing for, and I could be a different person. I wasn't John McGuire. I was David Bowie or Mick Jagger or whatever I was singing while I was playing that rock song. So I created a new experience, and you'll be learning how you can do that too, and we can do that coding very simply. Now, our neuroassociations are largely based on our perception and conditioning as a young child. So from around the time you're 18 months till you're like 6, 7 years, that's where all this programming is going of the software. And guess what? It's often faulty programming. So we're getting these conclusions and decisions that we're making that aren't real. They're just our fear-based perceptions. From our beliefs, we create our identity. Self-limiting beliefs hold us back from our greatness and our potential. So we're going to start testing to find out in this course what are our self-limiting beliefs that are subconscious. You might not even be aware of that. We're going to show you a way to find those out and how we can install positive, empowering beliefs that allow you to be at your ultimate potential. There's also the strongest force in psychology, and I learned this from Tony Robbins. He says it is to stay consistent with our identity. That's where we often block ourselves from success. Like we got programmed that we can't really be that successful. So as we're getting more and more successful, we will sabotage that because our brain and nervous system says, no, we're only supposed to be at this level, and we don't bust through that. So identity is very key, and we're going to do a lot of work in this course on recreating and empowering identity and associations, particularly with using affirmations that we're able to program deep within the biocomputer. Yes, we have a mistaken identity, and what most people think is that their thoughts are real and their beliefs are true. And we're going to go from another perspective to really evaluate and assess those beliefs. And here's something to note, is not only are you not your thoughts, but you don't have thoughts, they have you. I often go to Agape Spiritual Center where Reverend Michael Beckwith, I heard one of his sermons saying, put down that thought. You don't know where that came from. You know, like your mother, if you picked up something like, oh, this little piece of candy, she said, put down that piece of candy. You don't know where that came from. Well, our thoughts aren't really coming from us. Remember, we talked about that. They're coming from our programming, from our society, from our family, from experiences that we picked up, and even from other people. You know, sometimes if you're around a lot of negative people, you start thinking negatively because their thought field is going into your consciousness. See, our brains are like receivers. They're receiving these thought field forms and thoughts going into your consciousness. So often when you have a thought, it's not your thought, you're picking up a vibrational field from those around you. In fact, I noticed that when I'm around Tony Robbins in that group, they're so empowering and they feel so great about you. They're just filled with love and compassion. You can't go wrong. When you're standing in front of a group, and I've spoken to like 1,500 people at a Tony Robbins event, and they told me, they said, by the way, these people are paying $1,000 a day and they're expecting you to be as good as Tony Robbins. And so okay, no pressure here, right? So I stand in front of that group and there's so much positive energy coming from them, it just draws things out. Now you might have had the opposite experience where you're in front of a bunch of skeptical people that are like looking at you like, who is this person? I don't think they know what they're talking about. You can't get the words out. You're just affected by that field. So just realize that your thoughts are much of the time a mistaken identity when you say, I am my thoughts. Here's another one. You are not your emotions. You have emotions, but they aren't who you are. Now, when you resist your emotions, they persist and block energy. Here's another mistaken identity. You are not your emotions. You have emotions, and we often identify with our emotions like they are who we are. I am angry. I am frustrated. I am overwhelmed. However, you have these emotions or you're experiencing these emotions. And so it's fine to experience your emotions. In fact, we don't want you resisting them, but don't identify with them and stay locked inside of them. Many people do that. I like John Gray's quote. He said, whatever you can feel and express, you can heal. So don't resist the emotions, but don't be your emotions. Now here's the key for me, is that we are truly spiritual energy and pure awareness at our core. I've had times in my life where I was in the greatest pain and despair, and yet I felt there was a part of me that was just pure awareness, noticing it all. Like there was a distinction that I could experience. Wow, there I am in this greatest pain. And I just allowed myself to cry and emote. But back in the back, there was a state of pure awareness, just being with it all and flowing. And that's what you often get from meditation or from prayer, where you get into a state of higher mind or higher consciousness, and you see your thoughts, you see your emotions, but you're distinct from them. So something I encourage you to do is practice some form of getting outside of your ego mind into your higher mind. There's a great quote from Wayne Dyer, who unfortunately passed into the spiritual realm in this last year. And he says, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So be in your spiritual being sense, noticing your human experience. So be in your spiritual beingness and note that yes, you are having a human experience, and don't resist that, but just be pure awareness of noticing it all and experiencing it all. Here's the good news. You can choose at any time how you want to think and how you want to feel. I liken it to having a remote. You ever watching TV, which I've got rid of? I got rid of cable. I don't have TV, but you know, if you were watching TV and there's a really bad program on or some really horrific news you really don't want to watch, you have a remote and you say, I'm changing the channel. Well, same with your thoughts. You're noticing those thoughts coming. You can at any time shift how you want to think and how you want to feel. You can choose how you want to feel. So notice when you've picked up a negative thought or feeling and don't run with it. Do you ever notice how a thought, negative thoughts, oh no, and then you go ruminating on it and going spinning down the hill like, oh God, what if this happens? What if that? Oh no, what about that? You know, it just carries you away, right? You've been there, right? I sure have. So as soon as you notice that, drop the thought and focus on a feel-good thought. Here's what Abraham Lincoln had to say. People are about as happy as they make their minds up to be. So if you make up your mind, I'm going to be a happy person, regardless of my circumstances, you can be the chooser of your experience. And I've seen that in many cases when I get into some very challenging circumstances. I can now, through doing all this work for 35 years, be able to rise above it and say, you know, here's how I'm going to frame this, here's how I'm going to experience it, and glide right through it. Where earlier in my life, I would get so stuck in negativity from whatever experiences were happening that it would sometimes take weeks, months, or even years to dig out. But now it's more like 2 minutes or 5 minutes whenever I get into a funk. So you will develop more and more of that capability using these distinctions and these techniques in this course. Here's what you can do with psychological kinesiology that sets it apart from other forms of psychology. We're going to be using muscle testing, which is where the kinesiology comes into it, to find past traumas and blocked emotions ready to be cleared. See, we have trapped emotions in our body that often cause pain and emotional as well as physical challenges that we get stuck in that were sometimes very far in the past. I'll give you an example of this. I had a woman with shoulder pain, and she'd been to many doctors for I think 17 years, could never get rid of that shoulder pain. Well, we discovered, as you probably know by now, we have these finger modes or hand modes, and it was an emotional-based pain. Because sometimes pain are structurally based, biochemically based, or energetically based, but in her case it was emotionally based. No one was approaching that pain before with her. And we then went in, you're going to learn how to do this, you're going to go and age recess, we call it, to find what age this emotion and what specific emotion got trapped in that part of the body or in that organ. And we discovered it was from when she was 17 years old. So she says, oh my gosh, that was when my parents got divorced and I had so much stress about that. Well, those blocked emotions got stuck and we uncovered that. And then we did some great techniques. Your body will tell you through the muscle testing which is the best technique. We're going to learn a lot of techniques, over 15 different techniques. And you can ask the body, what's the best one to clear that? What's the best tool to take out of your toolbox? So we cleared it and her shoulder pain went away and never came back. So those are the kind of results you can get with kinesiology, finding what emotion, what age, what situation, and then doing things that get down to the energetic root and release it. You'll also uncover subconscious beliefs and sabotage programs and know how to clear them. And then you're going to see which of our psychological needs are not being met and how to best meet those. It's one of my favorite parts because once I learned that and started using that, basically I'm just happy all the time. Well, there's little dips here and there, of course, as challenges come up, but that's part of life, part of grist for the mill. But that you're going to love that because you can actually find with people as well as yourself what of your keys to happiness are not being fulfilled and strategies to fulfill them. We're also going to find specific acupuncture points that you can tap to clear upsetting emotions and balance energy. You may have heard of the technique, emotional freedom technique. Well, we're going to streamline that and show you how to shortcut it to find exactly what point will clear an upsetting emotion such as fear, anger, resentment, and it's profound how quick and effective that is. They're called the hypothalamic set points, so you'll get that distinction and how to use those. Another thing in psychological kinesiology that you're able to do is test for what neurotransmitters are deficient. There's 4 primary ones we're going to learn about: dopamine, acetylcholine, GABA, and serotonin. And there's actual acupressure points you can tap into to see if one of those is deficient. And that has a huge effect. I mean, if that's all you did was working with people with that, you'd get profound results. Another thing is you can install positive beliefs and neuroassociations to program the nervous system for new patterns and success. That's where I see people achieving incredible results doing this work. Both athletes, performers, and just people in their business. So you can expect having breakthroughs in your levels of success using the psychological kinesiology approaches. Another one we are able to do is test for words that block your energy and words that enhance your energy. I already talked about how the word challenge has a different energetic response than the word problem. So we're going to start paying attention to our vocabulary, and that can really free you up. Very powerful. There's entire course is just on that alone, but we're going to get to the core of how to choose empowering words and vocabulary. Here's another one you're going to learn is what body positions related to an accident that stress you and how to clear those that can release pain and tension, such as a car accident or any type of fall. Or it could be just a body position that when you were in that, you had an intense emotion, and then when you get in that position again, it's a muscle memory that flashes back that emotional experience. Particularly like people that are driving a car and they get hit. Well, every time they're in the car again in that similar posture, it subconsciously recalls that stress pattern. So we're going to show you how you can test for that and clear that. What's really great is you're going to get in touch with your passion, your purpose, and your mission in life in this course. So we can really propel you to do what you're meant to do on planet Earth. One of my favorite quotes is from Albert Schweitzer, who said, "Those who are truly happy are those who have sought and found a way to serve." So we want you to really get in touch with what your true passion is and singing your passion, allowing your music, metaphorically, you might be a singer too, but your music to resound into the world, that you're really getting in touch with your passion and purpose. Here's what Tony Robbins once told me is the 2 keys to emotional well-being that's at the core of his work. He says it's number 1, what you focus on. You want to focus on feel-good thoughts, ones of gratitude, joy, love, and beauty. So rather than focusing on the problem, he would say focus on the solution. Focus on what's great about this. Even if you're having a major challenge, so, oh God, how did I get into this one? And we're going to get into empowering questions as well. He would say, ask yourself, what's great about this? Like, wow, I'm going to learn so much and become a better and more compassionate and loving person. So what you focus on is the key to your success, your happiness, your fulfillment in life. The next is the meaning you make of what happens to you. So something happens in your life, you put a meaning on it. It doesn't mean anything in itself. You create a meaning. So make empowering meanings that give you strength, courage, and energy. Very key in life. So if you only remember 2 things from this entire class, remember this. The key to psychological health and well-being, as well as physical, is what you focus on and the meaning you make of things. Now we're going to cover the emotional stress release and creative visualization. I do this technique more than any other. In fact, I do it for myself every day. It's how I fall asleep at night, with my hands on what we call the stress release points, the frontal eminences. And I heard from Dr. Fee when I was practicing with him. He said, if all you did with people was the emotional stress release technique, 80% of people would get better from that alone. We already talked about 75 to 90% of people's health issues has a major emotional component. So clear emotional stress, even with the simplest technique that we're going to get into right now, and you'll get profound results. So it's tremendously effective in releasing all forms of stress, including overcoming these: fear and anxiety, overwhelm, disappointment, self-doubt, anger and resentment, grief and guilt, stress from physical pain, performance anxiety, and regret for things you did or that you didn't do. That's a biggie. It can be used before an event to free one's mind of fear and create a mental blueprint of desired outcomes. And I've worked with athletes with this, as well as performers that say, wow, that really nailed it. And that's the whole thing of sports psychology, is visualization. And they would see themselves through the entire event going perfectly, and amazing things happen. So you can create a mental blueprint for success. The key to this technique is to have the person relax and breathe as they simply notice or witness what is present from a state of relaxed awareness rather than react to it. We talked about this earlier, how there's this reactive ego mind, and then there's pure awareness. So we're allowing them to get in that state of pure awareness and just notice, witness, observe. That in itself is a huge factor to releasing the stress and the blockage in your body. Because remember, whatever you can feel and express, you can heal. So we want to bring the feelings up, and you're going to notice those. You're going to bring the images up. Remember all the sensory, the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic. You're going to bring those all on the table. But while you're touching these points lightly, breathing and noticing, it's going to just clear away all that stress and get the energy flowing. It's very simple, but very profound. Now you're going to then have them observing this from that state of pure awareness, and then while they're touching these points, it stimulates blood flow to the frontal lobes of the brain, where it clears the old negative neuroassociations and replaces them with positive ones. See, the back of our brain in the occiput here, the occipital lobe stores all the ways things have been coded. And when we touch here, it brings it to the new association areas where we can say, oh, we can put a new light on this and construct it in a new neuroassociation pattern. So it's amazing, because remember I said about that fear in public speaking? Well, I was able to recode that, but we have even people that just from focusing on the event and now doing what we call the creative visualization, they get a total different experience just from doing this technique alone, where they're in the exact same situation. The first thing you're going to do is, and this is optional, test a strong indicator muscle. Like for you that know the pectoralis major clavicular, pushing down and out like this, that's a great one. But the key is it can be any muscle. Now that you have a strong muscle, you want them to think about the stressful situation, and while they're thinking about it and feeling it, push and see what happens. And it will often release. And that's indicating the emotional stress release technique will be helpful for that. If they do test strong, it either means, like when they think about it and you push, oh, it's still strong. It either means one of two things. One is it really doesn't bother them that much and it's not that great of a stressor. They've already handled it. More commonly, it means they go into a locked muscle, like it's so scary, I don't even want to go there. So what I'll generally do is I'll tell them, take a deep breath in, relax, and just get in touch with how you feel about that technique and retest. But I'd say 98% of the time, it just goes weak when they think about it and clear. So if they do not go weak when they're thinking about it, it means one of two things. Either it's really not bothering them that much, so you can ask them, is it really bothering you? And you got some stress on it, and they go, well, it's not that bad. Or they might say, yeah, it really does. So I say, okay, get in touch with how you feel about that in your gut, and then getting out of their head into their feeling, that awareness alone, then you retest, it'll go weak. Next, have them assess their level of stress on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the greatest stress. And usually they'll say, oh yeah, it's about a 10, right? If you don't know, and they say, I don't know, you could actually muscle test. It's a 5 or greater, it's a 6 or greater, it's a 7 or greater, it's an 8 or greater, okay? It's a 7, you know, so that kind of helps you find it. Generally, they'll just say it, and that's good. Then ask them whether they're thinking of a person or event, because as you're going through the technique, you're going to ask them to think about that person or think about that situation. And they don't have to give you any of the details, by the way, just so you kind of know what to refer to when you're guiding them through the situation. If they choose to, they can talk about it out loud while you're holding the stress release points, but they don't have to. I've had many times where people said, it's so personal, I didn't even want to talk about it, and they still get great results. But some people feel like, oh, I feel better if I just get it off my chest and talk it through. So whatever they do is fine. Next, you're going to lightly touch these points. Point number 11, for you that know the Touch for Health system, it's the frontal eminences, and slightly tug up on the skin. But it's very light, about as light as you can touch. You're not pressing hard, you're not rubbing, just a light touch. It's a contact, an energy contact. Now, you can have the person do this for themselves if they prefer, especially at home, skipping the muscle testing. The fourth point is while you're holding these points, you're going to tell them to relax your entire body and breathe slow, deep breaths. letting your belly rise as you breathe in and fall as you breathe out, or some variation of that. The key is you want them breathing because that's where energy moves, and being relaxed, because it's when you're in a relaxed state and then focusing on the stressor while you touch here, it recodes it and clears it. It allows energy to move. See, it's when we tighten up and resist our experience that we block the energy. Then you tell them, review the situation silently or out loud, simply noticing what is present rather than reacting to it. Notice what you saw and heard in the situation. So each time you're going through, you give them a pause to experience that. So after the pause, you say, notice what thoughts you had about the situation and what you told yourself. Actually, it's what we tell ourselves that's causing the stress more than anything. So being aware of that and observing it from your deep, peaceful place is the key. So give them time to reflect on that. And you may notice their eyes move under their eyelids. If they're shut and they're going like this, because what happens is it indicates they're processing their neural coding of the event. It's getting sorted out through their brain. So that's actually a good thing. Then say, notice what emotions you had. Relax and just observe those. If they emote, tell them that it's safe to do so, as this helps to release the stress and energy blockage. Remember, whatever you can feel and express, you can heal. So sometimes they'll go and just start crying. I actually did this once when someone was doing it on me. I must have cried for 45 minutes, poor person, but it was like, wow, did I feel great after that, because I had all this pent up grief and sadness that I just needed to release. Now say, be aware of any body sensations you had and where you feel tension. Notice these sensations as you breathe and relax. Another key is they're looking and surveying through their body where they're holding this tension. Very key element is when you have the awareness itself can be the cure, but particularly when you're breathing deep and touching these points. Then have them let you know when you've covered all of the aspects. For a past event or situation with a person, ask them, how would you like to feel about this situation or person? You may give them some suggestions like perhaps accepting, peaceful, courageous, detached, or something positive. Tell them then, feel these feelings spread through your entire body as you breathe in deeply. So get them experiencing those feelings. Now they're not thinking about the stressor at this point. You can even tell them, think of a time when you really felt peaceful or you really felt courageous. Breathe those feelings in and feel them spread through your entire body. So they are associating with the positive emotion. And once they have a deep sense of this, have them review the situation, either as it occurred, this time feeling the positive emotions surrounding you or the event, and you're telling them this, and if they like, they can talk about it or be silent. Then have them tell you when they're done doing this. Seventh step is if you're dealing with a person that they will have contact with in the future, or in a situation that will be similar to the one they're dealing with the stress on, you can have them do the following. Tell them, if it's with a person, see yourself being with this person, feeling the way you want to feel, and communicating in a way that you want to communicate. So now they're getting a mental blueprint installed that they feel that person in their presence in a sense of peace or understanding or compassion. And then they're programming that to occur when they talk to them in the future. For an event, you can say, picture yourself doing the event optimally, feeling these positive emotions, telling yourself how well you are doing. I did this with an Ironman triathlete. Before he was going to the Ironman for his first competition, I asked him, how do you feel? He says, I'm scared to death. So we did this whole event and had him feel and see himself exactly how he wanted to be in that event. And at the end of the event, which is basically about a 10 or 12-hour race in the heat of Hawaii, Hawaiian Ironman, I asked him, how did it go? And he said, it was the best day of my life. A lot different than scared to death. So he created that mental blueprint. So it's great to do for future events. So have them focus on what they see, what they hear and feel, and what they say to themselves and others, noticing their breathing and their posture when they're in this positive state. Number 8, you can ask them to let you know when they've completed their visualization, and then retest the indicator muscle as they think about the original situation or person and see how it tests now. If it doesn't test strong, then you can repeat steps 4 through 6 in silence and retest. But generally, they will be switched on and it will be cleared. So when the indicator muscle tests strong, it indicates that thinking about the situation no longer interferes with their energy flow, causing neurological disorganization and stress. So the creative visualization creates a mental blueprint for them to perform at their best. So now I'm going to describe how to do the technique, actually working with Elena here. So Elena, do you have a stressor, some situation or person that you're stressed about right now? Would you like to clear?
Yes, there is a person in my life and a situation, actually both,
okay,
that I'd like to clear.
All right. Well, if you like, we can actually, you want to clear both of them, we can actually test to see what your body wants to do first. Would you like to do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. So here's what you can do if someone has more than one. Give me a yes, and I push on her arm. So I see that's a locked response. Give me a no. Push on the arm, and let's go. So now I'll have you think of the person that you want to get stressed, and we're going to ask, it's best for us to clear stress on this person first? Says yes. It's best for us to clear the situational stress that you have first. Hold. And it says no.
Okay.
So it's like you make a statement and then you push, and it's either true or false is basically what you're doing. So what would you say on a scale of 1 to 10, the stress you have, 10 being greatest, on that person?
I think around 8.
An 8, okay?
Yeah.
Great. Now it's okay to just leave it at that. But if someone says, I don't know, you can do this, and we don't need to do that with her, but I can say your level of stress is a 6 or greater, it's a 7 or greater, it's an 8 or greater, it's a 9 or greater. And it goes weak on, it's not a 9, but it's an 8 or greater, so it's an 8, okay? So we now know that's true. You can test afterwards the same thing if you wanted to, but the key is, we're going to see how you feel about it. So you feel like a 8.
Yes.
It's like up there.
Yes, it's constantly in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, she doesn't have to give me any details, but if you wanted to, you could talk about it as we're clearing the stress. Okay?
Okay.
So now we know the level of stress it is at, and it is switching her off, so we're going to see at the end of it if we get it switched on. All right? So now let's do this. We're going to have you start breathing slow, deep breaths. You can close the eyes if you like. And I'm touching these points very lightly on the forehead. Does that feel comfortable for you?
Very nice.
Good, okay. Now, breathe slow, deep breaths. And just relax your forehead and your jaw. And if, folks, you have music you want to play in the background, it's okay to do that while you're doing this, but you don't have to have some music. So as you totally relax your body, I want you now to notice the person that you feel stress about, and just notice any images that you have. What you saw, what you see, and just keep breathing slow, deep breaths as you simply notice, like it's out in front of you, the images. Good. And now what I'd like you to do is notice what you heard. If any things were said, just notice those again as you witness them out in front of you, as you relax. And notice any things you told yourself about this person. And now I'd like you to notice any emotions that are coming up and just observe those as you relax. Just breathing deeply, letting it flow, Just noticing what emotions are coming up. So you'll notice I give them time to ponder each sensory experience. And now notice any body sensations you have. And if you like to, you can report any of those. You know, where you're feeling tension.
Well, I definitely heard the words from our last conversation that was not pleasant and with that person.
Okay.
That I didn't even realize that I was still holding on to those words.
Okay.
And I was feeling, even though I'm feeling very peaceful right now, with the points, it makes me feel really relaxed.
Good.
But I also felt that I was judging, I was thinking that person is stupid, and also I felt hurt.
Okay, good. So you just are observing those, and that's what you want to do, is you want to notice what you heard, what you saw, what you told yourself, this person is stupid, and what you felt was hurt. And just observe those as you relax, as these points are being held. And any body sensations that you also notice, like tightness somewhere or pain.
In my lips and the jaw.
Okay, so just observe that, breathe into it, and then let that go and flow. And then let me know when you feel like you've covered all of the situation.
I think so.
Got it all? Okay, good. Now what I'd like you to do, Elena, is tell me how you'd like to feel about this person.
I'd like to, what came to me is I want to feel happy about the situation, and I want to let go and find peace within the situation.
Perfect. So you want to have happiness and peace.
Yeah.
Kind of like acceptance of...
Acceptance, yes.
There we go. Okay. Now, so you ask them what emotion they would like to have, and then I want you to breathe in those emotions of acceptance, peace, and happiness. Just feel those emotions spreading through your body. You might even think of a time when you felt very accepting, happy, and at peace. Ah, that's great. Feel those spread through your body. And now, so you notice, folks, because my thought field is affecting hers, especially since I'm touching her, I'm focusing on those feelings too. Feeling peace, feeling happiness, feeling acceptance. So now with those feelings, what I want you to do is see the person again, surrounded with those feelings, moving into the future, holding those feelings and really feeling them now. Not just noticing it, but feel that peace, that happiness, that acceptance. And notice yourself moving into the future, holding them in that light. Are you able to do that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So just take time now to see it moving into the future, surrounding them with peace, happiness. Even the past, that you're just surrounding that whole thing that happened in the past with acceptance, with peace, and with happiness. And tell me when you really got a sense of that. You can even see what you'd like to say, coming from a peaceful, happy, and accepting place. And again, just let me know when you feel you've really got that in your core.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, very good. Now I'd like you to think about the person again and bring your arm back up, and let's just see if there's a shift in your energy. Before we were seeing energy was blocked, now we're going to see if it's moving. You got a sense of that person now and how you feel about them? Hold as I push. Very strong. You feel the difference there?
Incredible.
Good.
Yes.
Now, before you said it was at a level 8. 1 being total peace and calm, 10 being greatest. Where will you say you're at right now?
What's come to me, because that situation really affected me, but I already feel dramatic shift. I feel like maybe I'm at a 4 or 3.
Okay.
Which is a huge difference for me right now.
Yeah. So you're happy with that?
Already, yes.
Okay.
Totally happy.
Good.
Maybe it's even lower, I don't know.
Okay. Well, again, we don't have to know with muscle testing, but if you wanted to, we could check.
Kind of do. Maybe because I maybe have to come see you again.
Okay.
But maybe I don't.
Okay, so you're at a 5 or less with him. So 5 or less, could be less. Hold. You're at a 4 or less. You're at a 3 or less. You're now at a level 2 or less on stress. Wow.
Wow.
So you're at a level 1. Wow, you got further than you thought, huh?
Wow. It actually, yeah, it feels right.
So what shifts in your body do you feel? Like, is there, you mentioned tightness around your jaw. Do you feel like more openness when you think of that person?
Well, I feel more light. Like, it was a very heavy situation that really bothered me for maybe like 3 weeks every single day, like
wow,
every moment.
Wow.
Yeah, it was heavy.
You're really, okay.
And now I feel like much more present and not in the past, you know, thinking of what happened, and more like calm and confident that I'll be able to get through this, and that's okay.
Wow.
What happened is okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. So you're pretty happy
great.
about that, huh?
Very happy.
Made a huge difference in that simple little procedure.
Wow, it's amazing. I'm surprised.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
good. And see here, you can do this yourself. When anything comes up, and I do this again almost every day, I touch these points very lightly. Now what they have is a neurological effect of stimulating the blood flow and oxygen to the emotional centers of our brain and the frontal lobes of the brain, where we create new associations. So we're actually creating a new neuroassociation. So when you think of that person, rather than falling back into the old, oh, this is how I feel and this is how I react in a subconscious way, it actually says, oh, I can be happy, at peace, and accepting.
So just touch here and think of that situation, that person.
Yeah,
wow.
And you can do anything. It's like any stressors that comes up in your life. You don't have to limit it just with him.
Yeah.
It's like if you, like you were driving to the studio here in traffic. So while you're at the stoplight, you can touch here and just breathe and let go. So these are what we do instinctively. You know, when we're under stress, we go, oh no.
That is true. Right.
We do that because it works. It's your body knows that this is the way to get more oxygen, blood flow, and to clear the stress. So
amazing.
any stressor that you have, you can do this. Now the other keys that I want you to be aware of that we were doing is, did you notice in the first one I had you in your relaxed state, noticing and witnessing what you had in your images, what you heard, what you told yourself, what you felt. Because when you're in the witness state, you're in your state of your higher mind, which is pure awareness, like you meditate, right?
Yes.
You're in your meditative state, just seeing it out there rather than being in your reactive mind. So that's why this works. You get out of your reactive mind into your awareness, pure awareness mind. And by putting that all out there and touching here, it clears away the stress by just observing. There's a saying, whatever you can feel, you can heal.
Wow.
So the fact you're feeling whatever the emotions come up, you're healing them by just allowing yourself to feel them and be present to them while you touch here. So that's the key, is just feel and express. Like you could talk about it or just, you know, sometimes you might even notice tears come up. That's actually good. If you're upset about something, just hold the points and cry. It's very healing. Or yell. Amazing. There's times I'm really frustrated with somebody. I don't do it in front of them. I usually go way out where there's nobody around, or go in my car with the windows rolled up and I'm not in traffic, and just sit there and scream because you're expressing. Whatever you can feel and express, you can heal. And this gives the booster.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's what you want to be doing. And then any stressor that comes up.
I thought I was okay, you know, certain trouble. I thought I was okay. I, you know, told myself I'm okay with the situation.
Yeah.
But when you said go deeper, it actually kind of came up as very dark. Like so the image was very, very dark, and I felt the emotions that I'm not okay with it.
Yeah.
So it's great that I was able to feel it, like you said, so I can heal it, because the second part of the experiment, the second part of the treatment, I was feeling a lot of light around him.
Yeah.
And before it was a very dark scene, like it was like darkness and heaviness.
Wow.
So yeah, it's completely different.
Yeah, see, that's the second part where now you associate with those positive emotions. See, in the other one, you're just looking at them outside. The negativity, you're looking outside yourself. In the association of, in your case, peace and feeling happiness and acceptance, that's where you feel those emotions and now associate those with the person or the situation. And now you code in your neurology, oh, when I think of him, I feel peace. When I think of him, I feel happiness or I feel acceptance. Now, in some cases, some cases you need, to reinforce it a little bit. And we could even ask, a home program would be appropriate for this, and hold. Yeah, so doing it like another once a day, more than once a day, more than twice a day, more than 3 times a day. Okay, so 3 times a day. So you can go back, until you get it really wired in your neural system, which is, again, reprogramming the neural patterns, till you feel like, wow, I just totally locked into that new peaceful state, because we're creating new neural patterns. Sometimes you only need to do it once and it's gone, but in your case, it'd be good to have a little home reinforcement, okay?
Affected me deeply.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter which hand I use?
Doesn't matter which hand. In fact, what I sometimes do is I'll just use the palm. And at night, I often lie on my back, or my side, that is, and I'll use, my elbow against the mattress or maybe on the pillow, and I'll just have those points, and I'll often fall asleep that way. So it's the way, or I can do it like this too. Sometimes I'll put the hand up there and I'll just lie on my back and fall asleep. And it's great for any stressor. It doesn't have to be a major emotional stressor. Just like, okay, I could go through the day and I was in that traffic jam and I was telling myself, oh, this is, I don't like this or whatever. And remember this, the thing that causes us stress isn't the emotion itself, it's resisting the emotion.
Wow.
So we say, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. And that blocks the energy and gets it locked in our body, so we don't release it. You made another key distinction, is what you said is, I thought I had cleared it.
Right.
We have a cognitive cerebral mind, and then we have an emotional mind. And those are two distinct, totally different things. So you can say, yeah, I'm fine with that. And inside you're going, ah! Yeah, there's like two.
But you're pretending outside that you're fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, it's good to do the affirmation from the mental side, but what sometimes happens is we still have that subconscious. Our conscious mind saying, yeah, I can deal with that, I can deal with that. But the subconscious that hasn't cleared it is where we're getting down to the roots of that energetically and setting it free. So it's a very simple technique. You can practice it at home, and just know that whenever you're under emotional stress, the first thing to do is touch here and start breathing, because it's the oxygen and the neural stimulation to those frontal lobes of the brain that helps to clear it. Okay? Simple enough?
Beautiful.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Okay, fantastic.
You're amazing.
You're amazing, and just have fun doing these techniques and keep exploring and knowing that you are not your emotions, you have emotions. You are not your thoughts, you have thoughts. You are spiritual, pure awareness.
Wow.
You agree?
Powerful, agree.
Yeah, okay, fantastic.
Thank
You're welcome. Here's a self-help technique that you can do using these points and the emotional stress release and creative visualization. To do this by yourself, you get in the relaxed state and notice how you have composed the stressful situation in your mind. Again, the key is notice. It may be that you had a painful or disappointing experience in the past and you are now generalizing that it will happen again. By noticing what you see, feel, and tell yourself about the event while you're in the relaxed state, lightly touching these points on your forehead, you're freeing yourself from the power those thoughts have over you, breaking their negative patterns. So it's a great one to do at home, even like taking a break after something upsetting happens. Sit down, touch here, and do the procedure. So after you've focused on the negative aspects, visualize your desired outcome in vivid imagery, seeing it clearly, noticing the sound and voices that inspire you, as well as what you tell yourself to instill confidence and a feeling of strength, power, and success. This neurologically programs your brain with the mental blueprint, giving the biocomputer instructions to carry out. Touching these points on the forehead in this manner activates the centers in the brain that are involved in creative choice in present time awareness. Instinctively, people put their fingers there when they're under stress. And so being in present time awareness, here and now, like a Zen state, it frees you from your past, and you can now respond appropriately in the here and now rather than out of your past reactive conditioning. In summary, for our whole class this session is number one, thoughts are energy, and they can be considered a vibrational thought field. When we resist our experience of an emotion, we block energy, which then creates meridian imbalances and impairs our health and can ultimately cause disease. Many different aspects affect our thoughts and emotions. We can control them, those thoughts and emotions, and choose how we want to think and feel. We use muscle testing to determine which thoughts and memories create energy blockage, resulting in the muscle testing weak or switched off. We also know that we can clear blockages through the various techniques, including the one we did today, the emotional stress release protocol, and recode our experience to no longer cause stress and create positive neuroassociations. In our course, we're also going to get clear on our passion and purpose, and then clear away subconscious sabotage programs and limiting beliefs that hold us back to create a strong attractor field to manifest our true destiny and our mission. Your assignment for this class then is to do the emotional stress release creative visualization protocol that's on page 25 through 31 with 2 people. Have them notice the difference in how they feel about the stressor after doing the technique. Number 2 is to do that self-help emotional stress release creative visualization where you don't have to do the muscle testing, and you can do 2 stressors for yourself, a whopping 2, and if you want to do more, great. It's on page 32. And then let us know the difference in how you feel. So we'd like you to email us all the results. In fact, the 2 people that you work on, email us that as well. So it can go to support@kinesiologyinstitute.com. Then I want you to study the notes on page 4 through 22 and write down areas in your mental and emotional state that you would like to improve on in this course. Certain emotions that you feel stuck in, certain upsets that have happened in your life that you feel you haven't really resolved. Start jotting those down, because as we go through the course, we're going to clean out all the closets. We're going to have you go back, and any upset anywhere in your life, we're going to recode that, clear it out, and also looking at the future. Where do you want your life to go? What's the reality you want to create? What's the emotional states you want to live in? We're going to do all that. So we'll be giving you more assignments in this context, but for now, just start looking. Then you want to take the quiz for this class after studying for about a week and practicing the material. It's always good to take the quiz as a checkpoint to see if you've gotten these things into your long-term memory, and it will also review it for you, so you make sure you've really got it. Then if you haven't gotten a partner yet in class, we can pair you up with one, but it's a real good thing to have an accountability partner and a study buddy. And that way you can share with them insights you're getting, breakthroughs you're having, possibly challenges you're having, and support each other. So a good idea is to talk to them once a week, even if it's just for 15 minutes to touch base. I took a course about 8 years ago, and I'm still in regular communication with my partner from that class. And it's actually made huge differences in my life. And in being able to check in with him and get ideas and get new insights. So I love having an accountability partner to support each other in what you're doing. So here's what I want you to remember, is you're here for a reason and a purpose. Everything that happens in your life serves you towards that if you use it properly. So I thank you so much for your participation in this program. Looking forward to hearing about all your breakthroughs. So I want you to live a life with passion and purpose and pursue your dreams. Until next class, be well and God bless.